friends, and enemies. Welcome back to the greatest podcast in the world, where we are polling at record highs and record lows. My name's Joey. That's Len. Buddy,
what's the high? What's the low?
I like our record high for poll. I mean, we're polling at about 100% approval rating, I think, right now. I don't know as many people who listen to this show and don't like it. The low, I don't know, probably after the second episode where we did like 3 hours at my kitchen table and everyone was like, what the fuck are you guys doing talking for that long?
There's our high, there's our low.
Yeah. What's going on? Good to see you. Saw you at work today. Always a pleasure to see you in a professional setting as well.
I am here, I'm there, I am everywhere and nowhere at the same time, Joey. I'm just enjoying it. I am like the wind. I'm like a ninja. I'm having fun. I'm counting down the days more than anything. Counting them down. Yes, Joey. It's Did you get hit with snow?
We got a little bit over the weekend, but not much. And we had a little bit of that hail as well, but nothing compared to our neighbors to the north, right? If you look up near like Aurelia and whatnot.
Yeah.
Pretty rough. Yeah, pretty rough. Saw a pretty good snowstorm there.
Yeah, I know somebody that went for some event in just outside of Barrie, and they got stuck there.
Wow.
Power outage and snow and yada, yada, yada. They're still stuck there.
If they need food, like if they're having trouble finding food, there's tons of leftovers at the Kearney rallies since no one's showing up. I see a lot of leftover pizza on Twitter at these things. So if you ever need a bite to eat or you find yourself in dire straits, maybe Mark will help you. Make sure you ask in English, though, because I'm not sure they would understand in French. Lots to talk about today. We got a good show full of fun, excitement, and commentary. A couple of things. I mean, the election is obviously still headlining. We'll talk about that, among other things. Let's just get to the sponsors first.
Dominator show again.
Yeah, of course. EasyDNS. Mark has been a friend of the show for a long time. And, when we look at our sponsors, we always try and get best in silo. We started doing that, I think, with Mark. And we've been able to keep doing it with Bull Bitcoin as well, obviously. But, if you want to host a website, build a website, buy a domain, port a domain, Mark will help you do that. We've done it with CanadianBitcoiners.com. We posted on CanadianBitcoiners.com today for the first time in forever a mix of AI and commentary from yours truly on the best stories from the last 7 days in Canadian markets. I think it's pretty good. I curated the AI stuff a little bit, but you tell me what you think anyway, listener, viewer. On top of that, if you are a Bitcoin enthusiast, you can go over to Mark and use the suite of virtual private server stuff available on EasyDNS, whether it's a Nostr Relay Bitcoin node, nodeless implementation, BTC Pay server. Mark will help you set that up. Piece of cake. And then, of course, Len, domain sure, making sure you are as secure as you've ever been. Okay, snug as a bug in a rug, as the saying used to go. And when I think about security, Len, we talk about it a lot on Axis of Easy, the EasyDNS podcast, but we're talking about it more and more here as well. So I think if you're going to start a little company, you want to be using Mark for your website and for your domain and all that stuff. And if you're not, I mean, what are you doing? Go there, use the promo code, get 50% off your first round of buys. Pretty good deal. Yeah.
Another good deal, Joey, is where you should buy your Bitcoin, because you're not going to get rugged
with
bull Bitcoin, because it's non-custodial and this is what you want in exchange. You can't facilitate a buy without providing an address in which to send it. Try that with Coinbase. Try that with other places. They'll be happy to hold on to your
I told you, I just got shotgun KYC'd on ShakePay too. It's happening everywhere.
Well, Bitcoin won't let you have that. Because again, like I mentioned, you have to provide an address to send it to. It could be a fake one, but then you're just sending money or Bitcoin into the Netherlands, never to be received again or retrieved later on. Either way, if you're an individual, if you're a business, this is the place you want to buy your Bitcoin. If you're in Canada or in some parts of Europe. Good place to buy. Like I mentioned, the price, I don't know what the heck it is. What is it? Low 80s, whatever the heck it is. Buying time, selling time. They got you covered on-chain, Lightning. The fees on-chain are still super low. Continually do that. That's my suggestion. But of course, this is not financial advice. Do what you want. But there's other things you could do rather than simply buy and sell.
This is the only show where we talk to you for an hour and a half, and then at the end we just say, you know what, just do what you want.
Well, do it, yeah. I'll be happy to provide information, point people in the right direction. They can do whatever they want. Just like with Bull Bitcoin, I suggest people to use it, but I can't force them to, right? And it's not just simply buying and selling with Bull Bitcoin. There's other options you have too. You could use their bill service to pay your bills with your Bitcoin, which is rather cool, right? Like, where else are you going to do this where you have your Bitcoin hopefully accumulated in value quite a bit over the past how many years you've been in it? And one way to use the value that's been stored into it and start paying the bills that you have accumulated over the past many months. And Bull Bitcoin will be happy to facilitate those payments. Furthermore, you could buy gift cards. Look, in Canada, it's very difficult to spend your Bitcoin directly at a vendor. There are some select, very few vendors that will do that, but the majority do not allow this. So what you can do, you could buy gift cards through Bull Bitcoin using your Bitcoin. And that way you're kind of spending your Bitcoin indirectly. In the real world, you're living on the Bitcoin standard. This is the way Satoshi wanted you to do it. If you haven't opened an account with Bull Bitcoin, what the heck are you waiting for? Our code is below. You can check it out. Just click on it and open the account. If you do that, $21 will be added to your account once you provide the necessary information and, of course, fund your account.
Let's do some boost, buddy. What do you got?
Well, Joey, before we even get there, this is 4 years.
This is 209, right? So was 4 years last week?
I don't know. It's somewhere around here. Like, okay, another anniversary, maybe pseudo. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyways, happy anniversary, happy anniversary, happy anniversary. I can just barely hear that in the background. That sounds so awful. That now it's coming in. Oh my gosh.
Good job. Way to go.
Boost, let's do it. Wartime, 333 sats. He says Operation GTFO, laughing, claps, and fire emojis. Yeah, I'm with you there.
Truly.
Wartime again, 333 sats. Fire emojis. Okay, here we go. Hopefully I'm getting this right because it's kind of difficult to get all of them with all the boosts. Teets writes in 475 sats, Joey watching shitcoin content so we don't have to. Bless you, sir. Doing the yeoman's work.
I don't do as often as I used to, but yeah, still do.
This sometimes. Is to do with Bankless, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Have you caught them lately, or you're gonna get the latest?
I haven't. Let's do our weekly Bankless.
Let's finish this
title
before we
and vibe update here. Hold on. Vlad Tenev wants to tokenize SpaceX and OpenAI on Robinhood. Gives you an idea where things are in the Ethereum world.
It's going really poorly over there, but it's on an ETH show, so fuck them. We have, let's see, Doug and Roop, 950 sats. He says, Lens new, not heard it with such vitriol before. GTFO strategy is signaling an interesting shift in the leadership of CBP Media Inc. Watching one of these, quote unquote, place it in the sun shows, and it hit different for me. No use sitting on a stack and complaining. The time to make the plans and executing is closer than one thinks. And I've been saying this for some time. That certainly is. It's better to start doing it today than tomorrow. And if nothing pans out, at least you're prepared for the worst and it never came out. But I think the worst is going to be coming.
I agree.
Maybe a glass half full or a container of water half full, but maybe that's just me. But that's it, Joey. That's the 5 top boosts for this week.
Okay, thanks everyone for your sats. This week we have Dave.
Oh no, sorry, I missed one. Sorry, my bad. Because it's 475 sats. MoBTC Dick. These smear campaigns really disenfranchise me with both parties. Hate that stuff.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Joey, but
agreed.
MoBTC Dick sent it that 475 sats. I want to make sure he got his.
We got to get the word out. This week on the show on Wednesday we have Dave Bradley, Bitcoin Brains. We'll be talking about I don't know, TBD. I don't really have to plan a show with Dave. He's got lots to say. I got lots to say. We have a lot in common and we disagree on a few things too, but we will talk. And then next week, I have what I think is going to be a really fun show. Coin Icarus, Phil, one of the original Simply Bitcoiners and now the host of Pleb Underground, coming on to CBP for the first time. Phil's one of the first guys I followed on Bitcoin Twitter back in 2018, 19. And, it was really before I had any idea where the signal really was in terms of, Twitter. Podcasts were easy. YouTube was, sometimes good, sometimes bad. But he was one of the first guys I followed, and I followed him since then. And, I'm excited to talk to him. I've never actually had a chat with the guy, so I'm looking forward to that one. That's going to be good. That's in 2 weeks. And then in 3 weeks, I don't know. I think I messaged Soretsky. I haven't looked to see if he wrote me back yet, but I'm going to try and get him for the 16th, and then we'll see where we land after that. But yeah, good guest coming up on CBP. I'm really looking forward to doing some interviews here.
Joey, the Bitcoin stuff we could do a little bit shorter because, again, I think we have so much on the back end of the show. I can't believe
I just
it.
want to say, can I just say here? I don't know if you guys can see this. It looks like I have more gray hair than I actually do because I plugged in my cam link to this camera. This was on USB before, and so I haven't changed the settings. If I look a little whatever staticky, I'll fix it for next week. But for now, just enjoy the. What
Good,
is that
because
movie
I
with
was
the-
wondering, and then now I'm going to sleep good at night knowing this information. Really, I was concerned. Look what the fuck's going on.
What was the movie with the vampires? I forget what it's called.
Interview
Where
with
they're
the
all
vampire?
where they're all shiny. It was from like the early 2000s, I think. Fuck, I can't remember the name of it now. Someone in the chat will know. I see myself in the video here, and I can see like my eyebrows are shiny. It's like every time I move, even the headphones are like too staticky. It's like visual noise. I have to fix the settings. But Boomer asking a good question: is there going to be a special election show? That show is on the 28th of April, which is a Monday.
Isn't it?
So, like, I don't know. Do you want to start it a little later? Maybe it's like skip the usual show and do election coverage. I don't know. Because you can't really, like, I cannot go from 7 till 10.
No, and there's not enough content.
Yeah, but we could do like 8 till 10 and maybe put on, just check out some polls, bring on some guests. I don't know. Like if we plan it now, we could probably do it. But we have to agree that we're doing it, I think is the key.
I'm game.
Like who would stop in? Who would stop in? Mark for sure
No.
would stop in.
Even if somebody said no, we could still do the show in a way that would work right. You could still have your Bitcoin stuff at the front of it before the polls close.
Yeah.
Nationally, but it will close in the East, I think, before. But either way, you'll still be able to do shit and then talk about Bitcoin and then transition to the rest of the news. And that will be the time the polls are starting to close for the majority of Canadians. And then we'll start getting results in. So yeah, I'm down with that. Let's do that. Start at 8, end around 10ish.
Yeah.
Unless there's like, they're still counting the ballots.
Yeah.
We're not going to go to sleep that night. We'll go to bed at 3, 4, 5 in the morning.
Hillary Clinton will tell me that before we go to bed that they're going to be counting through the night. So anyway, yeah, we should do that. Yeah. Count me in.
Luckily, this doesn't happen typically in Canada. Just generally, yeah. So I don't think it's going to be like that.
Lock it in. We're doing an election show, April 28th. Bank on it.
All right. Anything else before we just do the kind of abbreviated Bitcoin stuff and extended?
No, I think that's it. Let's hop in.
GameStop. We'll do that number one, right? Like this past week they announced they're going to be buying Bitcoin. Yay! Right? Apparently
down 20% that day, I think, or the day after.
And then the very next day they gave it all back.
Yeah.
Right. So like investors loved it temporarily and then all gone. This came out March 25th. So this past week they came out with news saying that their board unanimously approved an investment policy, right? They said that they want to include Bitcoin as a treasury asset. Okay, I'm cool with that. Seems nice. At the time, they didn't stipulate how much Bitcoin they're going to be accumulating, but it was noted too by a lot of folks out there that GameStop was sitting on a fair bit of money, billions of dollars in cash. So they were thinking maybe they're going to be using that to buy Bitcoin. But, well, before we get into that, they said there's no HODL strategy. The board has authorized the good people at GameStop to buy and sell at their discretion. Mm-hmm. So they're going to be using this as a way to, well, we'll see. They give the regular reasons why anyone would get into Bitcoin, declining value of US dollars and so on, shit like that. It's speculated that too, they might get into the NFT world, right? Because
why not?
Oh, exactly. If you can monetize it, all the more power to them. I don't agree with it, but whatever, fuck them. Following the announcement, so we talked about, the shares spiked up quite a bit, and then the very next day gave it all back. They also said they plan to issue $1.3 billion in convertible bonds, and this is going to be partly used to purchase Bitcoin. Not totally, but partly used to buy Bitcoin. So the cash they have at hand, I think they're burning cash every month. It's just they're not in a good position. Zombie company, really, more than anything else.
Yeah.
This news for them buying Bitcoin would have been huge 4 years ago. Fucking massive, especially given what transpired after the short squeeze and deep fucking values and all that shit. But last year, this would have also made big news. Say this happened 12 months ago, this would have been really big news. But now, March 2025, it's ho-hum. It's like whatever. It's like another company buying in GameStop, whatever. But the one thing people are speculating is now, because they're going to be accumulating Bitcoin and adding it to their treasury, and I'm not sure how much is going to really change their finances in the end, but maybe people are speculating there could be an opportunity for shorting Bitcoin as a way to suppress the price to impact GameStop's overall valuation. I don't know if that's possible. Bitcoin's what, a $2 trillion asset. I could be wrong with that number, but either way, I don't think that is possible. Good luck for people trying to short Bitcoin. They're going to get wrecked in the long run. Actually, for any of you no coiner out there, I encourage you to do that, because you might as well get wrecked and we could laugh at you all the way to the poorhouse. Either way, for this whole GameStop shit, whatever. Who cares in the end, I think.
GameStop has been issuing debt and like trying to stay afloat on the back of basically becoming a meme through the DFV thing, like you mentioned, for 5 years now. Did you realize that? That's a long time. GameStop as a company, I don't know how old that company is, but I can't imagine it's been publicly traded for longer than a decade. So, you got to figure half of its sort of useful life, it's been running on fumes, right? Whatever the Wall Street Bets guys
2002, I guess,
say.
is the earliest price.
Yeah, oh, wow. So it's been trading that long. I stand corrected. That's pretty.
Could be
long.
longer, but
yeah, that's quite a stretch. I'm really surprised to hear that. And like GameStop as a company, I think is maybe the poster child for the memes, right? That's the quintessential meme stock. And its leadership has basically thrown in the towel on trying to become profitable, it seems. Bitcoin did not save them. I suspect it will not save any other companies, because in order to do that convertible debt issuance and buy Bitcoin, people have to actually want the converts. And MSTR seems to have gotten that right. They've proven that the market has an appetite for that stock down the road, but I'm not sure that GameStop is going to be able to do the same thing. So look, this is when people say in the Bitcoin space, we need more companies to adopt the Bitcoin treasury. Okay. This is what the normie sees. The normie sees this. They don't see Sailor. They don't see, other companies that have done the Bitcoin treasury strategy, the Semlers, the whatever, right? That's not what they look at. They think these companies are failing and they're trying a quote unquote gimmick to remain afloat. Now that may actually be true in a lot of cases. Like, I don't know what Semler's balance sheet looked like. Certainly MicroStrategy wasn't hitting the moon anytime soon on the back of their software business, but it doesn't work every time, Len. And I think this should be a wake-up call for the people who are saying, yeah, every stock needs to have a strategy where they're adopting Bitcoin in some way or another. But again, like you mentioned, there's no hodl here. This is just buy, sell to try and stay afloat. I guess I was going to say, get back into the green, but I think that's a ship that's sailed.
So MicroStrategy was profitable in 2019. So at least we'll give them
profitable, yeah. But I'm saying you're not going to see $500 MicroStrategy on
no,
100%. Yeah, that's what I mean.
But
right?
We'll give
Same
them
with
credit
Semler,
there.
like Boomers in the chat's saying too. Like Semler's cash flow positive. Like,
so yeah,
being cash flow positive is not like equity markets want more than that.
I agree.
And
it just shows they have a healthy
that.
business.
Yeah, exactly.
At least
right.
For the time being, the snapshot.
Yeah,
so
it's not necessarily a business you want to invest in.
One thing to note is GameStop is not a franchise. It's all the stores you see are owned by corporate head office, whatever you want to call it. So one thing, in a perfect world, I don't foresee this happening, but in a perfect world, if you see the United States say you could spend Bitcoin without paying capital gains is considered to be a currency, like a USD, then using Bitcoin to purchase games and whatever else you buy at GameStop would be wonderful, because that would be one way they could start accumulating Bitcoin without really doing anything. And then it's not going to happen, because Bitcoin right now, you have to pay capital gains. But another thing, because they have a fair number of stores, I'm wondering if there's going to be an opportunity for them to at least promote Bitcoin to their customers through an ATM. If they could probably make an agreement, some sort of partnership with one of the ATM companies out there, and so put up these in their stores, or many stores out there. It could be a way to promote Bitcoin. Not that people are unaware of Bitcoin as it is, but another opportunity to onboard. I don't think it's a bad thing in the end.
Yeah,
I don't know if it's going to happen.
Yeah, what problem does it solve?
I don't think it solves any problem. It's just a nice to have more than anything.
Yeah, well, they're not in the position to be getting nice to haves right now.
Well, I'll give you an example. Now, you being a company that deals with ATMs, Bitcoin ATMs. Now you see GameStop is doing this move. Would you approach GameStop? You say, look, let's do some sort of agreement. I'll pay you some money to put my machine in your stores. Why would GameStop say no? it's now free revenue for them because they
They
get
wouldn't
revenue.
say no, but like no competent Bitcoin company is going to do that in a GameStop.
Why?
GameStop is not a business that's seeing any customers. Like people don't buy games physically anymore. And by the way, like even the games if you go to get a game on release day, you know, it's not the same as it used to be. There's no like, you know, in special posters or anything in the base I want to say base model, but what is the word I'm looking for? Like, you know, without buying the deluxe edition or whatever, you're just basically getting a case with a CD where you have to download the data anyway. It's basically a CRM license in a box. So people are kind of like, I don't want to say wising up to that. I think they have wised up to it. And this is why brick and mortar game stores are closing. There was a GameStop not far from me, actually, that closed down probably 3 years ago, something like that.
Same.
In the, in University Plaza.
Yeah, it's definitely trending in the wrong direction, no doubt. But yeah. I'm not here to try to shill it. And I would recommend, and this is totally off base here, if you're going to buy a game, I prefer the physical copy, because in the end, if you want to sell it, you can. If you have the digital copy only, you're stuck. And quite often I've sold off games because I had the physical copy and it was good to have. So that's just my 2 cents. I prefer the physical. Sounds like Joey prefers the digital side of things.
Yeah, that's probably just enough of a gap between us in age that you feel that way and I feel this way.
I like plugging in my cartridge into the console.
I want to blow on that thing before I plug it in.
Okay, so home miners out there, you know, there's a lot of them watching, listening to our show. Take notice for this, because it's something very interesting. We have a new ASIC, a new miner called Avalon Q. Seems like they're kind of taking aim at, or at least taking some of the things from Cold Card, right? Yeah. Like Cold Card Q, like what the Avalon Q, like why they got the Q, anyways. Maybe the Q from Star Trek. This was debuted at Mining Disrupt 2025, so just last week. The Avalon Q, very interesting. It offers up to 90 terahash per second of hash power.
90 terahash. Okay.
That's so like an S19J J Pro will do 95 terahash, for instance. Like it's decent, but it's like the amount of terahash, it's not astronomical, but it's good considering the rest.
Yeah.
There's adjustable consumption of electricity between 800 watts to 1600 watts. Light bulbs should be coming on people's heads just from that, making it adaptable to standard home electrical systems. They say that this is the first professional grade Bitcoin miner to support 110 volt for people to use here in North America. The consumption, or let's say the efficiency, 18.6 joules per terahash. And that is okay. I mean, it could be better, but it's still pretty darn good. It operates at just 45 decibels. And they say this is similar to a quiet library. Is this, you know, if you're going to do home mining, you're talking now 90 terahash, 18.6 joules per terahash, quieter than a library. It's pretty darn cool. Not only that, it runs between -5 Celsius to 35 Celsius. So it's a pretty wide range. So you could even just plug this in your garage, for instance, if it's rather cold. It will probably warm it up and it will just run just fine there. Now, here's the kicker. It's $1,600 USD. Right now is the pre-order. You could order it while supplies last. So it is rather expensive. But over time, this equipment doesn't
Avalon Q. Hold on.
Avalon Q. So it doesn't stay there forever. In terms of the price, you can expect this to drop over a period of time. To what? I don't know, and when it's going to reach that, whatever it is. But it's giving us opportunities now to mine at a decent terahash rate, quietly, without using Loki kit. And I just have to go even further. Jer on Discord was talking about the Loki kits. This is his investigation, not mine. He says, I'm just quoting him, every engineer I've spoken to has said the same thing. That's going to burn your house down. He says there's too much current / too hot. And he says if you spend any time in mining chats, you'll find that almost every home miner using machines that were designed for 3-phase power has a story about fire. Really? I recommend 1 or 2 if you travel a lot and use hotels or Airbnb, but not your own house. I love that he's willing to burn down hotels and Airbnbs, but not his own house. I like that. But this just goes back to the Avalon Q. I suspect it's going to be designed specifically for the 3-phase power, which is what you want. I like this. more opportunities for us to buy something. Rather expensive, yes, but wait it out. This is going to drop in price, and maybe, just maybe, one of us could get it in the not too distant future.
Does it offer a statistically greater chance to hit a block solo than a couple of bid axes would, or just a greater chance on paper? Like, is it a statistically significant jump in your opportunity to hit a solo block?
So probably like 45 times greater.
So
maybe a little less.
So probably not then statistically
Yeah,
significant.
nobody's
So
whining with one machine.
This is the question, right? Like who's buying this thing? No one is buying and racking these in the industrial mining space.
If you are now to put this and attach it to a pool, and you're going to get a steady stream,
right? Okay,
of say 4,000 sats per day. I'm just throwing out a number. I could be wrong with that number. That's not too bad given today's network hash rate and the halving we had a year ago, whatever the fuck it was. And it's not too bad. You're getting like 4,000 sats per day. Now, how much is electricity? Is it cheap? Is it not?
You said this is about equivalent to an S19J. What do S19Js go for now? Are they
$400? $500?
So like you're gonna heat your pool with this thing. You could just get an S19J.
But that's 220 volts. The difference, and then it's extremely noisy.
Your pool shed has a 220 in it. Should anyways.
It should. So it works great for the pool shed if you're trying to heat the water for that 5.
I'm not trying to poo-poo the story. The point I'm making is like I'm having a hard time thinking about who this is for, and the people who buy this. It's it's kind of aesthetically okay. It's not great aesthetically. It honestly looks like one of those Dell business line machines. So it's not like something super nice to look at either. Where I think about the Brains miner that just came out, that's also underpowered for the price, but looks neat, at least. Nice big screen. It's kind of again, conversation starter. I always think that's cool. But if you're mining to mine, you wouldn't buy this. If you're mining to heat, you also wouldn't buy this. So who's buying it? And it sounds like you might burn your house down on top of all those things.
No, not with this one. This is not using a low key kit.
Sorry, you know what I mean? Yeah.
Right. Like so people that are using low key kits and shit like that on their S19s, I think this would appeal to them if the price comes down enough that it's then you can compete against the S19 plus the low key kit, because you have less opportunity or it's probably less of a chance to burn down your house, which is really what you want to do. Like those,
is it a statistically less chance?
I think so. But I have nothing. Again, this is a lot was what Jer said on Discord, which by the way, you should join our Discord if you haven't already done so. The link is below. Check it out. So, yeah,
great.
All right, remember the ETF WGMI? We are going to make it. We're going to make it. Yeah, this is the CoinShares Valkyrie Bitcoin Miners ETF. Came into existence February 2022.
Yeah,
and they say that was the goal, to provide investors with exposure to Bitcoin miners out there. So for companies that have at least 50% of the revenue or profits derived from Bitcoin mining, those are the ones that make up the basket within that particular ETF, WGMI. Well, it looks like the ETF is or was the worst performing U.S. equity ETF for this year of 2025. Yeah. A screenshot was posted on X that confirms this, and it was from a Bloomberg terminal. So, somebody had access to all that data, and what did they do with it? They decided to point it to, we were going to make it ETF. So yeah, I don't know what else to say. It's just, the miners
how about change the ticker to RIP and be done with it? You shouldn't be. I don't understand the rationale for owning mining stocks. I don't. I really do not understand that. And WGMI as a basket is out of your control. You're paying a management fee. Just buy the miners if you want. There's not that many of them.
It's not as cool as the WGMI.
Yeah, it does.
Like
it does. And I mean, I think honestly, it's just a dumb thing to buy. I mean, I'm not a mining, enjoyer anyways on the equity side, but
you're a whole miner now with the BitX.
Yeah, I mean,
you're at least participating in that.
Yeah, but like, I would never buy a mining equity. How many times have we talked about how the mining business doesn't make sense from an equity point of view? Unless you're one of these companies like Iron, that I would argue and have argued on this air that these guys are mining only as a hobby when AI compute is not in demand, and they're actually AI/energy companies. Like, that's really the direction you would want to go if you were buying those things, right? So Yeah, Leah Wald now running a Solana fund. Like these people all expose themselves. You know, they all turned out to be kind of just fly by night.
Wait, what
It's too
happened?
bad.
This is news to me. Like, brief me.
Yeah, Leah Wald was the CEO of Valkyrie.
Yeah.
And they lost a couple good people. Like Boomers in the chat saying this.
Wait, but she's in Solana fund. This is the news that
she's running a Solana ETF. It sounds like, yeah, or Solana like investment fund. And you know, they've lost other people too. Josh Olszewicz, who goes by Carpe Noctum on Twitter and does a good YouTube channel that I watch like every Sunday and Monday. He does Setup Sunday and Macro Monday. It's good. It's part of my research for this show, actually. Like I looked at, you know, his exit from WG or from Valkyrie as well, and just wonder, like, you know, if you're losing good people like this, good Bitcoiners, it makes me wonder what's going on behind the scenes. And I don't know if you've ever seen Leah talk on a podcast. Like, she's not, I don't want to say she's not smart. She obviously is, but she's, you know, it's not the person I'd be like, man, this girl could lead a company. We tried to get her on the show. Her and I traded DMs like 3 years ago, and I kind of just forgot about it until just now when Boomer brought her name up. But yeah, you know, now she's doing something that we do not support on this program, at least.
Yeah. You know, also we don't support doing these type of things. Luxfolio came out with some information today.
Oh fuck! I sent Len this thing. I love Dean Linden, but this is not Dean Linden's.
But he's not
anymore.
there anymore.
I know. I'm gonna pull.
Whatever happened to that Larry King lookalike too? Remember that guy? Wasn't Larry
I do
King
remember that guy. That guy was great. That was like, that's such good CBP lore. That whole like, it's just so great. I can't believe that. I'm gonna
well, for people who are unaware, Luxfolio used to be primarily a Bitcoin miner. Then they went tits up some like 3 years ago, give or take.
Yeah.
And they've just been hanging around. I don't know how, when they declared bankruptcy, they were still able to be publicly traded, but here they are. They still have, and the news today came out that they have announced a Litecoin treasury strategy, the first that I've ever heard of. Litecoin, like, why did they say, you know what? We have an option. We can get gold, Bitcoin,
Pokemon
I know, let's
cards.
get fucking Litecoin. That's I got that. It's not as heavy as gold. It's definitely not as heavy as fucking Bitcoin. It's very light coin.
This is actually deranged, demented behavior from these guys. Wait, how do I get back to our old setup here? There we go.
There we are.
Yeah, I don't understand how they decided that Litecoin was the thing to do with the treasury strategy. Is anyone anywhere doing Litecoin treasury? Like,
no, this is the first one I've ever heard of.
I've never heard of it before. That Luxfolio followed me on Twitter today, which is why I even noticed that. And I now half expect that I'm going to get a message from these guys at some point to try and come on the podcast.
Wait.
And like, what am I going to say? Like, yeah, sure, you can come on, and it'll be, when they come on to do the interview, it'll be me and Dean.
The odds of them, like, they're following a bunch of folks because this news came out today, this morning at 8 a.m.
Yeah.
So Eastern time. So they must have been, oh, let's fucking follow a bunch of these people with hope of getting this thing spread out there, the news spread. And here we're fucking spreading it, unfortunately. But what a fucking joke. Litecoin.
Yeah, I'm spreading news that, you know, that pretty soon they're going to be getting their cheeks spread over there, you know? Like, it's not a great situation. And it's too bad because Dean really did basically build that company from nothing through Cypress Hills Partners. And then they just, you know, went the wrong direction after he left a leadership role there. So you make of that what you will, but not great.
Dean was on not too long ago, but he was on a show. I think he replaced you.
He co-hosted for me when I was, what was I doing? I forget now.
Were you on your honeymoon?
Maybe. No, was I?
I can't
remember. It was after that. I think I was probably at the cottage or something, if I had to guess.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
but maybe not. I don't know. Or vacation? Maybe. I'd have to look back. Dean's welcome on this show anytime at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some guy posted on the Bitcoin subreddit, and he posted a fabulous reason. It was a video as to why it is we should buy Bitcoin and not park our money in a bank.
Mm-hmm.
And this bloke from the UK was trying to get his money out of his bank. 2,500 pounds was he trying to get, and he was going to use that to buy a motorcycle. All right. But the bank put restrictions on his account from withdrawing money, so he's unable to fucking get it. So he was in one of the bank branches talking through the speaker of the phone to one of the head office folks trying to resolve this fucking issue, just trying to get his fucking money. He worked for it and he put it inside the bank, hoping one day he'll be able to get it. And, you know, they're benefiting from holding on to his money. They're investing and doing whatever, and they're giving him that awesome 0.05% in fucking in interest, which is great. But either way, it's fucking bullshit, right? So you see stories like this, it shows you why not only we Bitcoin, but it creates a whole new Bitcoiner every time this happens. When somebody gets the shaft like this, when they say, I want to get my money, and the bank says, nah, we can't give it to you. The fuck do you think they're going to do? They're going to say, oh, I like this.
Without a good reason, too. The video is like kind of jarring. They're talking in circles to the guy, and he's just losing his mind. Like, it's my money, except it's not actually your money.
And that's why, like, please keep doing this, bankers, bankettes, bankies, whatever the fuck you guys and gals
bankies, that's good. Like tankies, but bankies, that's rock
bankies.
Solid. Yeah.
Keep doing this. And the more you all do this, and I know you don't have their money, you gave it away to somebody else or lent it away to somebody else. That's probably a better way to say it. I just keep doing this, because every time this happens, you make another Bitcoiner. A Bitcoiner is birth. And generally, once you become a Bitcoiner, you don't stop becoming one. You just start talking about it until other people are just blue in the face and they don't want to hear from you anymore until they get into the Bitcoin train. So keep doing this. I love stories like this. I feel bad for this guy that he couldn't buy his motorcycle. Like, geez, it's a good time now to get it. You know, the next 6 months is going to be a fun time to ride over there. But oh well, bus for him, maybe. Right? Maybe. I can't even afford that. If he can't,
if they don't lock his ID next over in the UK, total gong show in that part of the world there. You see that the UK banned ninja swords?
Yeah.
Like what the fuck is going on?
We talked about this, and that's as far as I'm gonna go.
I cannot believe that people over there are just looking at each other like, yeah, ninja swords, we got to ban those. Like, the ninja swords aren't the problem, okay? That's all I'm going to say. You guys have to figure that out over there, ASAP. I do love that in the Telegraph this morning, big headline, no free trade without free speech, from Trump and the White House to the United Kingdom, which is way overdue in my opinion.
Remember Celsius, the blow up that took place in July 2022?
Do I?
Right. And
Alex Mashinsky talking about how everyone everywhere can get 7% forever. And for the first time ever, Peter Schiff and Saifedean Ammous both looking at the guy in unison going, what are you talking about? You're never going to see those guys wearing the same jersey except for that moment. That was an all-time moment in Bitcoin lore.
They asked some very hard questions to Mashinsky, and he wasn't able to provide an answer that satisfied everyone.
Yeah.
And sure enough, a few years later, because I think that happened just 2 or 3 years before everything happened with Celsius. Anyways, Celsius was part of the whole Bitcoin dive that took place in 2022. And for those who don't remember, Celsius was offering extremely high interest rates on digital asset deposits, right? And that was far exceeding what you were getting at a bank. So in trying to incentivize people to park their digital assets with Celsius and to generate those returns, Celsius had to engage in risky and complex investment strategies. So when you do that, eventually things work well until they don't, and they didn't in 2022. There was a bank run that took place, and that was part of the Terra Luna blow up. And well, people couldn't withdraw their funds, and here we are. So now the corpse of Celsius is still out there. They're trying to file, and they have filed a lawsuit against Chainalysis. Have you seen this one? Is this story?
Yeah, I just want to note here, Celsius still trying to get people who withdrew coins before the blow up to give all the coins back through legal means. We had, I don't know who it was on the show. I don't want to say the name, but talk to us offline that they received this warning. You might recall them trying to intimidate people into giving coins back because they saw the writing on the wall. Get fucked, man. These people, there's a special place in hell for these types.
Well, it's getting even more scummy with Celsius, because they're saying with this lawsuit with Chainalysis, I don't want to defend Chainalysis at all, but I'm trying to say what they are doing here is rather pathetic, in my opinion. This lawsuit is all about an audit that took place in 2020, and Celsius is saying this may have been misleading because the audit confirmed that Celsius had 3.3 million in assets, and Celsius is saying that is utter bullshit.
Who did the audit?
Chainalysis did that.
They did it? Okay, all right.
Yeah, through their reactor tool. And through that, they were able to figure out that they had this amount. And so Celsius is claiming that was misleading customers, potential investors, and the industry as a whole. And the lawsuit talks about there was fraud, negligence, and unjust enrichment. The fact that they're saying this when they're the ones that... So Celsius claims that the reactor tool, which verifies transactions, cannot be considered a full financial audit. But the whole thing is rather funny because a partnership was established between the Celsius and Chainalysis back in December 2022. So they did the analysis, they did their audit, and then a partnership was established between those two. After, they thought, this might have been funny. The audit was done. Nobody said anything about it until now. Even fucking Alex Mishinsky said, he described the audit as saying, quote, great step in building greater trust and transparency, end quote. So they liked the audit at the time. The CEO was saying this is a great thing. They even went ahead and created a partnership with them. And now they're saying that whole thing was misleading investors. And give me a fucking break. But you know what? This shit, Celsius is a piece of crap for doing this kind of stuff. Yeah. They've been, look, as you mentioned, they're going after former customers of theirs to try to get access to their funds so they could help out paying off the debt that they owe. Look, if you're going to deal with anything, deal with yourself. Buy, hold yourself, don't do this kind of bullshit. If you do, this is what's that saying? You play a stupid game, you win stupid prizes. And totally. Here's exactly it. I don't know. It's all bullshit.
What's the excuse for all this? And by the way, when people maybe I think it's malice at some level. The thing when people say that the government needs to regulate these spaces, I hate that term, but I'll use it here. This is why. Bitcoiners generally don't play in games like this. I think the furthest most of us went was let in. Let in, by the way, still functional, still operational, never a problem. And you look at guys like Mashinsky, there's a couple of big moments leading up to that blow up, like we talked about earlier, and now Chainalysis, another company who, by the way, sometimes says that their tools are foolproof, other times claims that their tools are, sort of a best guess type thing. And suddenly they're kind of Schrodinger's cat of, on-chain analytics. I don't, this is all just the worst people and companies in Bitcoin altogether, ripping people off, intentionally or otherwise, just causing more problems for people. It's been 3 years now. You've watched the price of Bitcoin. Imagine you got rugged in Celsius's blow up. You've watched the price of Bitcoin go to 120,000 or whatever it did 110,000, and you're still sitting around getting letters or emails threatening legal action for pulling some of your money out and not being able to recover your other money. And now these guys are playing more games with you. It's just, this is just nonsense. I'll be so happy when we're done with this, and people can say all they want about stuff like the ETFs and corporatization of Bitcoin, but it's going to prevent stuff like this from happening in the future. I think that's my feeling. I don't know if it'll be true, but I think that it'll probably lead to a cleaner ecosystem for a lot of participants.
It will work until it doesn't, Joey. Until there's finally...
You're right. I can't argue with that.
Yeah. Do you see the Vitalik and that fucking toy dog?
The robot dog. Yeah. This is, I can't imagine having your wealth. People in Ethereum land wondering why no company is adopting an Ethereum treasury strategy, why ETHBTC is heading down to the right. Look no further than your thought leader in between sending out tweets talking about how he's the man in charge, sniffing the ass of a robot canine on some showroom floor. Was it a robotics show or something? I only saw the video once. So I just laugh and continue pinching my loaf. But I can't imagine that people in Ethereum are thrilled about this. I mean, we talked about the bankless guys. The bankless guys they're really finding, I think, new lows in terms of the vibe over there every week. And stuff like this can't help, can it? Can't positively contribute to how you feel about Ethereum at the moment.
I don't think selling off. I'm just speculating.
What is the price of Ethereum right now? Is it under $2,000? It's got to be, right?
It's with respect to the price versus Bitcoin. It hasn't been this low since before the merge and all that stuff. Whenever that took place.
Yeah.
So it hasn't had a very good 2 or 3 year run against Bitcoin.
It's $1,826 Ethereum. Like
And
that is
if I have to speculate, that's
brutal.
bad. I mean, compared to other assets, probably it's doing well, but compared to Bitcoin, it's doing shit. And I'm just again speculating. But further speculating here, it's got to be because they're flooding the market with ETH, and who's the one that has the majority of or had it? Like it hasn't been the ETH Foundation or the people, right? So they're just continually selling, and you can't audit the supply too, right? Like there's a lot to this. You have a centralized body that controls it. They pre-mined a bunch, and they're able to arbitrarily roll back the chain, and you can't audit this shit. Like there's so much garbage on this. Like I don't understand how anybody could look at this and say, yeah, this is a great place for me to store my wealth, my time, my energy, my effort. No fucking way. Find something else that's better. Look at number one. It's number one for a reason. It will remain number one for fucking a long period of time. So this guy, and nobody's sniffing out fucking toy dogs and doing.
Did they ever resolve their leadership their leadership turmoil? Those guys, I have no idea, honestly.
Did they have it? I don't even know.
Joe Lubin was tweeting about this a little while ago. I don't know. It's all just so lube before you put it in, I guess, is what I would say if you're, Now,
Eric Trump, I got to ask you this question.
Yeah.
How much sway does he have with the old man? Is he like...
I don't know. Are we about to talk about Bitcoin mining investing?
The American Bitcoin thing. Have you heard about American Bitcoin, or at least...
Yeah.
It came out today.
Yeah.
And
they're
apparently
making an investment in a mining company, rolling it into ABTC, right?
Yeah. It's going to take place. There's going to be a presentation April 1st, 8:30 a.m. Eastern, and it's going to talk about their co-founder, Eric Trump, and also talking to the people at Hut 8 as well. It's hard for me to figure out what the fuck's going on here.
Same.
They say that they're going to be starting off with 10 exahash per second and plans to ramp up to 50 exahash, and beyond. I have no idea. But if there's a connection here with the old man, I mean, not just with the name, but if
the story is that he's investing with Donald Trump. The Bloomberg headline was that he's investing with his father. His father's the president. I don't know how that's possible, but that's the plan, apparently.
And they want to start a strategic Bitcoin reserve. How are they going to be accumulating Bitcoin? I'm not saying they're going to be doing it through this way, but it's just interesting to see that there's something going on here with Bitcoin. And it's hard for me to figure out exactly what it is. It's going to take some time for me. I don't even know what the fuck this truly is, this American Bitcoin mine. Like, I don't know what the structure is, the new company. I know nothing about this stuff right now because
it feels like it's like an acquisition company, maybe. But I'm not sure. Yeah, I don't know. It's funny, like that when you think about the current administration, the ties to Bitcoin, the kids, right? The kids are all tech savvy. They're doing the shitcoin stuff. They're out there talking about Bitcoin. They're talking about crypto. They're talking about all this. Then you think about the guys that are at Treasury and Commerce, right? Lutnick and Besant, both are Bitcoin bulls. Lutnick especially has a huge Bitcoin bag. Then you look at the comments from Larry Fink in the BlackRock quarterly deck. I think it was a quarterly deck or the yearly investor deck that was released earlier this week, talking about if the U.S. doesn't get their spending under control, the dollar risks being replaced by an asset like Bitcoin. You got to wonder if they are all just positioning because they think that it's going to go this way regardless, and maybe in their current position as administration officials, they can influence that outcome and speed that outcome up. Could be that. What I'm really curious about is what companies are they talking about in this announcement? Who's going to be there tomorrow at 8:30? And maybe most importantly, how are you going to involve Donald Trump in this from the White House? Seems to be a difficult thing to do given the rules about selling your assets, with no tax penalty, et cetera, when you take public office or are appointed to public office at that level. So we'll see. But those kids, for all the shit they get, and they deserve a lot of it, to be honest with you. Stuff like Trump and Melania coin, obvious scam and grift, like the Trump sneakers, Trump whatever.
Trump sneakers. Hang on, I gotta take a look at this thing.
You never saw these? Oh, you're gonna die. Like these guys are obviously, they know how to make money off of their very loyal base. I'll give them that. But
holy fuck, $450,000, and surprisingly, there's some in stock.
This thing. at that price in this economy. This is a bit of a different beast, the Bitcoin thing and the mining thing, and it has implications because if we think about the language that was used for the reserve, it was what was it? Budget neutral ways to acquire Bitcoin is mining to increase baseload energy and having a buyer for baseload energy in certain U.S. jurisdictions under the guise of like, I don't know, national security. Like you want Washington, New York, Chicago, Boston, whatever, to never have a problem with power. And so you have additional baseload that these guys are just quote unquote buying and mining with. You know, is that budget neutral? There's a lot of things to think about here. And I'm not saying that they're, you know, maybe that's too clever by a half from me, but I think it's possible that they're going to start looking at this stuff because you could sell it. And say what you want about guys like David Bailey and the Bitcoin Magazine team and whoever else is in Trump's ear, but those guys have been saying the same thing for a long time, right? Like David Bailey, you might not like the conference, might not like the magazine, fine, but he does agree with stuff like baseload power and Bitcoin mining having a potentially harmonious relationship, right? Like offering some simpatico in these regions where you get brownouts during winter storms, for example, or whatever else. So we'll see. It's interesting that this is going on. Even more interesting, they announced it early and didn't really say much, honestly, as far as I can tell.
Well, tomorrow we'll have a lot more information with respect to the makeup of the company. And like Van is saying that Trump is taking a page out of Kiss's marketing page, put their name on everything and anything. Gene Simmons is a marketing genius and a marketing whore. So
is he mean Kiss the band or Keep It Simple Stupid?
No, Kiss the band.
Okay, all right.
So yeah, there
I saw Kiss was the first concert I ever saw, by the way.
Like actually Kiss or like
I saw them at Cox Coliseum. I was in grade 5.
Wow.
It was also the first set of female breasts I've ever seen as well. Yeah.
Wow.
Quite a night. Yeah. I still remember my parents having a heated discussion about whether or not my brother and I should have to wear earplugs. We ended up getting earplugs at Shoppers Drug Mart on the way there, I think.
Oh, the motherfucker.
Yeah.
Oh.
I don't think we wore them the whole time. I think we started with them in and then my dad just let us take them out. It was just the 3 of us. My mom didn't go. But yeah, it was quite a show. Glad I saw that.
Joey, I think we should end it with it. 51.
We went to the same amount of time, anyways.
Just about, yeah.
It's all right. If you're on audio, if you're on audio, come back tomorrow. If you're on video, Twitter, whatever, stay here. We are not going anywhere. We got lots to talk about, including Canadian election developments. So hang out, and we'll talk to you soon.
Don't be a cock.
52-21. Where do you want to start?
Let's do the election stuff. You can't go anywhere without talking.
Where do you want to start with the election? There's been so much. You got the Polyev policy proposals. We got China threatening to capture people. We got Carney in front of a podium today for the first time, full body shot that I saw. He can't be any taller than 5'4". All these sorts.
You know how you can find out how tall he really is? The debate that took place with all the liberal leaders, there's some pictures about with all 4 of them there. Frank Bayless is the tallest by far, but Chrystia Freeland is not very tall, right?
No, she's short.
So try to compare Carney's height with hers.
He's the same height as her. He's the same height as her.
Really? As according to the pictures, and she was probably wearing high heels too, right? Something to like elevate her, I would imagine.
Trying to look here. Karina Gold looks pretty tall.
She's a little bit taller. I'll guess she's like 5'8", 5'9", 5'10", somewhere around there. But Frank Bayless, I'm going to guess is probably like 6'1". He seemed like a taller dude. Maybe I'm wrong with everything. I don't know.
Yeah, I bet he's pretty tall. This is a hilarious picture. Look at this. This is so funny. It's amazing to me that these guys like try and pass this off as journalism when everyone knows exactly what's happening in this photo. Let me just share it here. And I'm not that tall. Like I'm 5'9" on a good day. So, I'm not some kind of like anti-short, commentator, but I can't even see it. Why can't I see it?
That's okay. We can just continue.
Yeah, too bad. But there's a picture here, like Chrystia Freeland, Carney, Bayless, and Gould. And Carney looks the tallest. They got them all 4 of them standing together, and Carney looks the tallest. I lost my camera. Oh my God, what happened to my camera?
Either way, I'll try to.
I'll figure
You're still there at least.
Yeah, do your story.
So anyways, Canada decided this past week to cut off $43 million in rebates to Tesla and this is going to stop them from getting further access to the program in the future. And this is all in response due to the tariffs that Donald Trump has imposed on Canada and also Elon Musk's association with the president. And this comes after there was huge surge of sales. Gosh, Joni's gone, so it's just me by myself. Either way, Tesla had a huge surge in sales in January 2025. Welcome back, Joey. And reports suggested that over 8,600 Tesla vehicles were sold in a very short period of time, around 3 days, across only four stores. So 8,600 vehicles sold in 3 days in 4 stores. And this volume raised suspicion with the government of Canada. And so with that, the Transport Minister, Chrystia Freeland, decided to announce that the government is freezing the rebate payments and launching an investigation into these claims to ensure their validity. And no payments will be made until the government is confident that the claims are legitimate. And Tesla has also been barred from participating in future federal EV rebate programs indefinitely.
Insane. That's insane.
So to go through this all, we had also provinces that were also doing stuff against Tesla products. Like we had British Columbia stopping the incentives for Tesla home chargers, for example, like the rebate program. Okay, Tesla, say what you want about electric cars in general, but Tesla probably is the gold standard of electric cars.
For sure.
You can say what you want for fit and finishes. Of the only 3 that I've dealt with in Teslas, they were all very good, and the owners absolutely love them. But that's a very small sample size, so we'll keep that at that. So if you're going to make the Teslas more expensive to buy for an end consumer, like the end user, what options do they have? It's going to be the other products that aren't as good. Also, keep in mind, in Canada, sometime in the middle of next decade, I think 2035, I could be wrong, the sale of new cars, there's going to be a ban on internal combustion engines in those new cars. Only EVs are. So now you have only EVs for new cars that are going to be sold sometime middle of next decade. And if this continues, Tesla is not going to be able to participate in these rebate programs. So their cars are going to cost more. So you're left with dealing with the others. Like, really? You know what I mean? Like, is this really a good move for the consumer in the end? Isn't Elon Musk a Canadian too?
Yeah, there's some
story
there.
I don't know.
It hurts consumers. And like, Len, are we serious about the climate goals? If we're serious about the climate goals, then why are we taking away the subsidies for the best EV, the most popular EV, the one that has the most cultural inertia? At least it did before this whole, elbows up nonsense. But, like, how do you say, what do you say to people who think this stuff is a good idea? I'm not sure that there's anything you could say to them, right? It's sort of like talking to a wall.
It's just the narrative. Like, when Carney, I mean, this is kind of similar topic, but remember when Mark Carney went to Europe shortly after he was sworn in as Prime Minister of Canada?
Yes.
It was speculated that the trip, his jet consumed 250,000 liters of jet fuel.
Yeah. I
did the math. And for my one car to use 250,000 liters of diesel, which is very close to jet fuel, I would have gone, and I can't think this is right, I would have gone to the moon and back 7 times. 7 fucking to the moon and back, Joey.
Yeah.
And for that one trip to Europe, like, you know what I mean? Like, come on. Like, I think you have the ideas there, but there's no participation in the talk, really. You know what I mean? Like, you say what you want, but really it's not being done, which is too bad. Who's in the pain in the end is everybody.
Yeah.
And
Boomer noting that the subsidies have been done for a while. That is true. The thing that I think bothers me about the Tesla, signaling out Tesla is a political virtue signal, as some of you guys are noting in the chat. Think about the stuff this guy has done in the last, 2 years, right? What has he done that has not been fantastic for society and for the species? He bought Twitter and saved it from becoming this, liberal echo chamber of nonsense where every consenting opinion is met with either a ban, a community note, employment termination, or some combination of the 3. He obviously continues to build out Tesla while he's doing Twitter. Like, this guy is stretched so thin. He gets Trump elected in the States, you could argue. I think that he played a major role in that. And then, as if that's not enough, since the election, he's also found tons of fraud in the American Social Security system. Most of it detailed yesterday in a town hall he did, I think, in Wisconsin. And then, Len, as if the guy is not doing enough for you, He also rescues some astronauts stuck on this International Space Station because NASA is so incompetent and can't do it.
It's Boeing. Boeing is,
Whatever.
Is their affiliation with Boeing, and
whatever. NASA is the government agency that told Elon he wasn't allowed to do it. Biden told him he wasn't allowed to do it. You know, that's what Elon says. It's hard for me not to believe that that's the case, given the partisanship and insanity that we've seen since Trump took over, coming from the past administration.
they were still training the new pilot.
Yeah.
That for Boeing to go up there.
Yeah,
Maybe that's why
Boeing brought in some temporary foreign workers like WestJet is. Is that that's
yeah? So once they were brought up to speed, at least mostly, then they give them the keys, and there you go.
They refused to go up there until their 9 grandparents were also allowed to come over and enjoy healthcare. Fuck. And people hate this guy. Like, for what? For what? Like, it's unbelievable. The stuff that I hear and see. It's mind boggling to me.
And now we have the polls. I'm going to talk briefly about that.
Let's talk about them. I'm going to, oh my God, my stupid camera.
Yeah.
This is, it's hilarious how sensitive this
Funny
thing is.
because I was having an issue before the show.
That's right.
And now you're having one. So I'm wondering if it's just a StreamYard thing and not a hardware.
Yeah, it could be. Because I didn't do anything there. I didn't plug anything back in. I just reset it. But anyway, let's talk about the polling in Canada. Everyone talking, you know, I'll say that I had a family get together on the weekend. I have some family that are entrepreneurs. I have some family that work in tech. I have some family that are young, some family that are old, men, women, you name it, all fairly well off. And every single person said basically the same thing to me, that Carney is just the right man for the moment. And this is the guy that we need to hire. We need to vote him in, and he's got to be the guy who carries us over the finish line. So, you know, when you look at the polls, another thing you hear from people, certainly I heard this on the weekend, I'm sure you guys have heard it too. When you look at the polls, you start to see that there's just huge gap building everywhere, not just in Canadian polling, but also on Polymarket, on other betting markets. BetMGM, Mark pointed out to us a couple of days ago, also the same. The gap is widening. It's not just like it's, you know, 55-45. It's 70 Carney, you know, percent chance to win in some places. 338, Len said to me before the show, has Carney at a 98% chance to win, down from 99%, but still basically an insurmountable probabilistic lead. Let's take a look at the polls that are being conducted. So here's a screenshot from Ryan something or other. I forget the guy's. Garrison. From Nick Nanos. Nanos, obviously, you know, one of the more popular pollsters. Nick Nanos not just polling, by the way. He goes on these channels and talks about how good his polling is and how concerned the conservatives should be, blah, blah, blah. You guys have seen this guy all over the place. He's about 60 years old. So he's average liberal voter, probably. In the survey, they asked only 158 18 to 34-year-olds versus 733 55 and up. So that's basically a 4X by my count. And even the 35 to 54 age group only had 291 people asked. So all the age groups that you would expect to be voting for the conservatives, not necessarily because the conservatives are the party, you know, that all these people vote for, but because these people are the ones who've been the most hard done by the liberal policies of the last 10 years. You know, they're not being asked in some of these polls.
Go back to that.
Yeah, sure. Hold on.
I think I have a theory behind this.
Sure.
It could be that the people that are being asked, the younger folks, they're just not answering. I get asked, I'm not going to say, I'm going to just call myself with the young. I don't answer any of the polls that come to me just because I don't care to. And if you're older and you're getting it, you're probably more likely to answer it. So like they're asking, you know, whatever amount of people, what did they say? 1,285 people. So just that's the way it is. And this could also be reflective of the people that are interested in politics. So older people tend to vote more often than, say, their younger counterpart. So this is just reflective of how involved they are in politics and how likely they are to vote. So I understand, yeah, it's skewed in terms of having more people older reply to this, but more people that are older are going to vote on average.
Yeah, that's fine. But is it a 4X as likely? Like we saw what just happened in America, right? Like Americans have a similar split demographic and support-wise between conservatives and liberals, and they were completely outgunned at the ballot box by the conservatives. Young, working age men and women, minorities, whites, they did better in every demographic than the polling
So
indicated.
here
Every
we
single
go.
one.
So for the 2015 and 2019 elections in Canada, this is from Elections Canada website. The voter turnout for people that are like less than 34, it's around 57% or lower.
Mm-hmm.
And it goes up to like, if you're 65 and to 74, it's almost 80%. That's a huge difference.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, and that's just by percentage.
What election was that?
It's taking 2015 and 2019.
So that was
then
before COVID, before mass immigration, before the inflation wave, before all this other nonsense happened in the last 5 years. Like, it's a different world, totally different world now.
It may be, but people that are older that are vested, they have a vested interest, they're going to continually do what they want to do and vote the way that they think is best for them. They've always voted, so they'll continually vote. They know what to do. They've done this before. They'll just do it again. So you're dealing with a population that is mobilized, organized, and willing to vote. And they've always have been.
Yeah, maybe. We'll see. I'm just cruising Nanos's website here. There's no. The thing that drives me nuts here is that it would be easy for Nick to say that if I look at the sampling we're doing in our polling, we are way oversampling liberal boomers in every poll. And he could also just as easily say, look, we're not doing it on purpose. We're actually just trying to call people. And to your point, Len, these are the people who answer. And so the polling is skewed. Take that with a grain of salt, change your margin of error, whatever. But he doesn't do that. Instead, he goes on TV and says that his polling is great and it's the best available and blah, blah, blah. Here's an example, by the way, of an Angus Reid poll question that someone had emailed to them. I'll read it for the people listening on audio. It says, it's about from Mark Carney and the Liberals. Which of the following statements comes closest to your own view on why people should vote Liberal in the next election, even if none is exactly right? Here's the first option. Pierre Poilievre is a radical extremist who would risk the rights of Canadians. We cannot let him win and become prime minister. The only way to stop them is to vote for Mark Carney and the Liberals. They're the only ones high enough in the polls to stop the Conservatives. Second option, Pierre Poilievre would bow down to Trump and let him walk all over Canada. He wants to privatize our healthcare system to be more like for-profit American care. He wants you to pay for your healthcare. We have to stop him at any cost. The Liberals are best placed to challenge him. Mark Carney is the best guy to stand up to Trump. And then the two other options are none of the above or don't know, not sure. Like, that's not sane polling, and that's not professional polling in any sense of the word. There's a guy I watched during the American elections, People's Pundit, Rich Barris, his name is. He's a Republican, but I got to be honest with you, the sampling and polling and questions that he puts together are really good. They're very clean and not they're not leading questions like these ones are, and leading answers. And this is kind of the reason people don't trust polls is not because every poll is fake, but it is because some polls are slanted. Like that Angus Reid poll. There's no matter what the question is, those two answers are not proper polling answers. And in Nanos' case, he's the revered polling contractor. By the way, standing offers, with multiple governments, including the federal government, Ontario government, tons of different agencies, all on his website. You can go there and look. This is the guy people go to, and he's oversampling by 4 times, and not noting it, not mentioning it, not saying, Len, if the reason is because he thinks more people will vote, he should say that, right? But I can't find him saying that anywhere. And I think that really, I've said on this show that I thought Carney had a chance to win. I still think he does, but this gives me a little bit of hope that it's at least going to be a closer race than Polly Market thinks or Nick Nanos thinks or whatever. But I think the debates are still going to be immensely important, much more important than they've been in years past. And I do think that the more Carney speaks, the more he shows he feels, as the kids would say, some type of way about the reporters and the questions he's getting from them. So make it that.
Who's more likely to get a soundbite out of one of these debates? Because the debates now are all going to be
Poilievre,
so
for sure.
I 100%
he's better
agree.
at that. He's better at that.
So he's probably going to be trained the best for that, given the right coaching and all that stuff than any other of the candidates. And that's what I think they're going to try to achieve, is try to get the best sound bites.
The French language
as
debate
possible.
too will be brutal for Carney.
He'll be able to defend
again.
himself.
Blanchette, he won't be able to. He can't.
No, he didn't finish. Let me finish.
Okay,
he'll be able to defend himself in the point where he can start his argument. It's when somebody else presents him with something, then it's going to be a challenge for him to do so. Like if he's going to start the dialogue, he'll be able to do it because he's going to have that rehearsed practice written out in front of him. He just has to follow it. But then once it goes off that script, and once you have to try to compute in your head what you have to say in French, in a different language, a language you don't tend to speak very often for the majority of his life, then it becomes problematic for him. And that's where it's going to be a challenge for him. And
I think Poilievre, if Poilievre was smart, I said this about Trump and Kamala too. Like there's a play, there's a high risk, high reward play you could make. You know, when Trump and Kamala were debating trade deficits, and Kamala was rhyming off, like you said, there's kind of a rote memorization moment for her where she was repeating some stats and repeating some reasons and repeating some figures. If I was Trump, I would have just said, can you describe to me what a trade deficit is and why it's bad for, you know, the US economy? And just see what she does, right? See if she flounders, flusters, whatever. I think Poilievre's got an opportunity to do the same thing in the French language debates. Like, can you speak at a speed that doesn't make you seem like you're trying to overwhelm him, but overwhelm him anyways? And like those debates are long, 2 hours, I think they're scheduled for. So can you do that for 2 hours? And there's a guy in the chat saying Carney said he wouldn't do the French debates. It's not what he said. There's 2 French debates. One is a national debate that CBC or CTV or whatever will host. The debate he's not doing is the TVA, the French language debate on the Quebec network. He's not going to do that one. But there will still be 2 debates, one English language, one French language.
So it was televised. Apparently they had to pony up $70,000 in order to participate in
each candidate to help with the production costs. Yeah, it's a small network. It's just something that Quebecers do.
And then Poilievre said he'll give the money. He'll pay the fee.
$70,000. Yeah, he'll pay the fee. And Carney's excuse was that the Green Party has 2 leaders and they're not both invited and blah, blah, blah.
Wait. I didn't know this. Wait. That's why they have photos of 2 people when they're talking.
The guy plus Elizabeth May. Yeah.
Is it like a co-leadership thing?
Liz is unhinged. I'm not saying she's, you know, everyone says she's drunk up there. I'm not 100% sure of that, but she certainly is a bit of a loose cannon these days. So
I'm shocked.
Well, then the NDP can't pay for Carney's entrance fee. I'll tell you that. They don't have the money. Jagmeet Singh took an uncomfortable question last week. I was listening to it after we recorded. Some reporter asked him, you know, we're finishing up here in Thunder Bay. We're getting on a bus to go to Toronto instead of a plane. Like, are you worried that you're not going to be in enough campaign stops? And why are you not taking a plane? Right? He wants the guy to basically say, like, we have no money.
I don't know why. And he has to be taking a plane to go because he was in the West Coast.
They're getting on a bus together.
They are, but it's got to be just him hopping on an Air Canada flight like everybody else, and just like isn't he not?
Where's the pictures? Where's the pictures?
I haven't seen any, but it makes sense that he should, because granted he'll leave his staff behind, but he's got a whole new set of staff somewhere where he's landing, and then he could pick up him with a Maserati and go from there and check it.
You're probably right. Like, yeah. I just want people to realize that because of the election campaign, we've been spared Jagmeet Singh making a meme about the morning routine, made famous by that black guy, Ashton Hall, I think his name is. He's like dipping his face in the cucumber water or whatever.
I don't know that
one. It's great. You got to find it. I bet you your daughter has seen the meme. I bet you she's
probably
seen it.
Yeah. Now with the way NDP is polling, they're dangerously entering a territory where they're not going to have official party status, and that impacts them in a number of different ways. And 2 big ones is they're not going to get funding, a lot of funding that is available to parties when
can you expand on that? Because I didn't know that before you told me that a few months ago.
At least the way it used to be. I'm not sure if it is, but every vote that you cast, a little portion of that goes to the party that you vote for. I believe that's the case. You also get access to like the libraries of Parliament and shit like that, where you get access to the staffers to help prep you for questions in question period and stuff like that. And then also you get far less questions to ask in question period. It's like you're kind of an independent type thing. And then so you don't get the ability to ask the questions. So you get very little airtime. So it really hurts if they don't get official party status. They could be in a territory where they may want to start asking if they can merge with some other party. But the only other party they could potentially want to merge with would be the Liberal Party. If the Liberal Party scores a majority outright, without any support whatsoever, they're in a driver's seat. And it would, why would they want to absolve another party and all the problems that could potentially come along with that?
Totally agree. What do you think the focus should be for the Conservatives for the next 2 weeks? They've so far basically tried to avoid talking about Trump, instead offering up these policy positions, neither of which I really like. I've taken some criticism for that, but the first is the TFSA top up, right? $5,000 extra. We may have talked about this last week. I don't remember when this came out, but $5,000 extra.
No, it came up in the past week. We didn't talk about it. This week issue.
So let's talk about it then, because I'm curious to hear your thoughts. The TFSA top up, where you get $5,000 extra. I don't know if it's per year or total on your TFSA contributions. So you can give about $7,200 a year, I think. Something like that.
They lowered it a little bit, I thought. I don't know.
I don't know what it is, but it changes every year. So you get the number at the beginning of the year, and you can put that money in tax free, and the profits are tax free too. But there's a cap, and so Poilievre is proposing we raise the cap so long as that extra $5,000 goes into Canadian companies. I have two problems with this. Number one is that no one has $5,000 extra dollars. Okay. Number two is that I view this as akin to capital controls, honestly. And if the only way you're allowed to get out of a sinking ship where the holes in the boat are being put there by the government and policy, if the only way you're allowed to get off the sinking ship is to try and get into Canadian companies that are underperforming, I tweeted this out last week. The S&P since 2005, is like a 4x in America, and the TSX is like, a quarter of that or something of that nature. I forget exactly what the numbers were, but it's a massive underperformance. Just in nominal terms. When you start talking about real terms and take into account the currency, cost of living, and things like this, like, you're getting nuked if you're in the Toronto Exchange and not in the American S&P. And the idea that you should have to, I don't want to keep saying have to, because you're not being forced, but the idea that if you want to try and escape the sinking ship, the currency, that the only way to do so is to invest in Canadian companies who otherwise would never get your money, and so will be artificially inflated in terms of valuation. It's just not, it doesn't sit right with me, and I don't think it should sit right with anybody. The second policy he proposed is that you'd be exempt from capital gains if you sell assets. That's equities, homes, businesses, it sounds like, as long as you invest the profits. Is it the profits or the proceeds? Might be everything. So not just I guess it'd be hard to put profits.
It changes
on a
nothing.
business. You're right. And so you have to put it back into Canada again. Like you're being not forced, but heavily incentivized, because you can't stay in cash. They know you can't stay in cash, and they know you don't want to pay tax. So your options are either invest in shitty Canadian companies with the proceeds, or build businesses in Canada, heavily regulated, underperforming, not the best environment, or pay some unknown amount of tax on your proceeds of your sale. These are capital controls. You may not like that. And it's funny, I just had this conversation with my mother-in-law a few weeks ago about my daughter and starting a RESP for her. A lot of my family's asking, can we put into an RESP, blah, blah, blah. I said, I'm not going to start an RESP. I have no interest in that. Why? It can't be all Bitcoin. I said, number one, it can be all Bitcoin for sure. But the reason I'm not starting an RESP is not because I want to save all in Bitcoin. The reason is because I don't want anyone telling me what I can and can't use that money for in 20 years. And I said, this is weeks ago, and my mother-in-law admitted as much to my wife. I think they talked about it a little while ago, that she thought I might actually be right, even though she disagreed at first. The idea that they have this money locked up and you can't get it unless you pay taxes as though it's income, unless you use it for what they want you to use it for. And there's a chance that they could use it to prop up Canadian institutions, Canadian schools, Canadian post-secondary, Canadian whatever, to artificially inflate balance sheets or successes or whatever. And you have to send your kids to a school that otherwise would never not only get your money, but certainly wouldn't get your children. It's all starting to happen, is it not? Am I dreaming this? And this is from the Conservative Party. If you don't think that the Liberals will do something similar, we'll make sure that your TFSA is carbon neutral. or that you can't invest in anything crypto adjacent, or, you know, you only get to use your TFSA if you have an electric car or whatever. Like, these are obvious incentives. And anyone who thinks this is a bridge too far, like, you haven't been paying attention. This is going to happen sooner than you guys realize. And by the time it happens, you're not going to know. And I said, you know, I'm looking forward to Easter. It'll be after the election, talking to, you know, family and friends about what went wrong for Carney and what went wrong for Poilievre, depending on who loses. But I think Poilievre is out to lunch on some of these ideas, completely out to lunch. And his campaign needs to reassess. I believe some of the stories I'm hearing about internal turmoil in that camp, because I can't imagine that a competent set of, you know, group of people, policy advisors, comes up with these two ideas. They're both just piss poor. And we can talk about Carney's piss poor idea from today later on, but I want to hear what you think.
Okay, well, so what do you do? So what are the options available to you being a Canadian, Joey? What do you do?
The funniest thing is that you guys don't realize me and Len already had this exact conversation today at work. Identical conversation. What did I say? I said, you don't have a choice. You got to vote for one of these guys probably if you want your vote to count for anything.
No, and then you're voting harder at that point.
Yeah, exactly. And so
what
it's
do
just
you
like garbage.
do?
Nothing. You have to just opt out. You got to opt out.
Wonderful. Wonderful. See, all roads lead to Len. And here's another example of that right there. So that is
Easter,
it.
Is Easter 420? I thought Easter was I thought it was 420.
It's a late one this year.
I don't know.
So it's going to be, it sounds like 420 sounds right, but it's going to be just before the election, which obviously makes sense because the election is April 28th. But
wow, nice. So I'll get to go before the election. Wow. I will be definitely planting some flags after a couple of years. I promise
with
you
all
that.
this being said, what options do you have? Like, there's
As
nothing
Canadian,
out there.
Yeah.
Right? Like so to go back, you have to prep for the afterlife, not for your death, but the afterlife of being outside of here.
Yeah, I got to stop you here because the chat is saying stuff that is driving me fucking crazy. The TFSA is not restricted to Canadian investments, but the TFSA top up is. So you can put your 7,000 in, but if you want to go above your 7,000, it has to be Canadian investments. And by the way, people saying BTCC, IBIT, no. It's a predetermined equity basket set by the conservative government. That is what is in the policy position. It's on their website. If you guys think, okay, that they're going to allow you to buy Bitcoin ETFs as part of a Canada First strategy, you're fucking stupid. Bitcoin. You're fucking stupid. I hate to say that because everyone from Brad Mills to people I've never heard of saying, oh, we can just buy Bitcoin ETFs. No fucking chance are you going to be allowed to do that. No fucking chance.
Even if you do it, how could we could go out there and say a paper Bitcoin is something we want to buy? Like, Jesus Christ, we're fucking Bitcoiners, right?
You can buy this stuff. You can buy Bitcoin in your TFSA. I'm not disputing that.
It ain't Bitcoin, man.
The ETFs in your TFSA. I'm saying I'm talking to people in the chat now. I hate when I do this, but like you can do that. But I'm saying directionally, what you are seeing is that as a first salvo, okay, it's not like 10% of your TFSA limit has to be in Canadian equities. It's not like 20% of your TFSA limit has to be in Canadian equities. The first salvo in real terms is your limit's going from 7,000 to 12,000, and almost half of it has to be in Canadian equities. 5,000 of the 12,000 is Canadian only, or you don't get it. That's the first step. The second step is not going to be less severe than that. The second step is not going to be less forgiving than that. The second step is not going to be, well, we're going to go backwards and let you do 20% or 30%. We're going to allow Bitcoin. We're going to allow Bitcoin ETFs in that extra 5,000 just because the issuer is Canadian. No chance. No chance. It's going to be auto manufacturers, oil companies, telcos, who knows what else, grocery stores. All the companies, by the way, that 2 years ago were price gouging you are going to be forced investment outcomes for you. That's what's going to happen. And the idea that this is anything but capital controls, and people are like, it's not capital controls. They're not forcing you. 50% of your limit, close to 50% of your limit, 5 out of 12 is brutal. Brutal. The next step is going to be more severe. I promise you that. And they're not going to keep raising the limits. They're going to keep
100%.
sliding the maximums. That's what's going to
Joey,
happen.
on a personal level, are you still putting any money in ATFSA or ARSP?
Barely.
So that number has been going down percentage wise over time, right?
Yeah, big time.
How
I told
much
you
longer
once I
before?
bought this house, like I like having a TFSA if for no other reason than because I don't want to save my emergency fund all in cash. Like it doesn't make sense to me to have an emergency fund all in cash.
That's
you know,
fair.
but like
There's
other
gonna come
stuff.
a point in time it's gonna be zero, right?
Yeah, I think
input into that.
I think so. I think so.
So fucking right.
Yeah.
See, it don't take long to get to this point. Everybody's gonna get there.
And even if it's not a zero, it's not going to be up to you to where it goes. And like you can imagine a situation where you're forced to invest in Canadian companies to preserve your tax efficiencies. In that world, what are those Canadian companies in terms of quality? How are they? Terrible. How's the currency? Terrible. How's the development environment here? Terrible.
You know, you're almost there. It don't matter if it's good or bad. It's the fact you're putting your money in. Remember that fucking guy in the UK?
Yeah, it's not yours. Yeah, it's not yours. As soon as you give it there, yeah,
right.
There's all
although
kinds
you may
of
have
leashes and collars. Yeah,
you may have ownership into a particular company, but how do you get your money out of that? Like, how do you go somewhere and say, I have X shares in something. I want to get no, man.
Yeah,
you got to go through some brokerage house and some. It's got somehow.
You're right. No,
I
totally agree. I totally agree.
So fuck that shit, man. Like it makes so much sense. Like once everybody figures out fucking Bitcoin, and you could hold on to it. You could verify it. You could send it from yourself. You rely on nobody. What a fucking liberating way of dealing with money. And somebody can't take it from you. You could send it. Nobody could stop you from sending it out. And there's a limited supply. Like it just gets better and better and better. Like, fuck, I can't believe people. I'm going to buy some more after the show. Like, how can we not?
What do you think about Carney's policy proposals? The 1% tax cut, like that's pretty insignificant.
No. The housing thing. Yeah. The housing is. I want to just talk quickly about this because there was that housing announcement that came up today, and they're trying to, or at least the intention is to build a bunch of homes because there's a deficit in terms of places for people to live, and they still want to bring people to Canada. They're always going to want to bring people to Canada because we're an older population. We don't have enough kids to sustain ourselves and so forth, right? So, one thing that was noticed on Discord, some guy named Flux, I'm going to give you some credit here, Flux, and he posted this, that people are now selling concrete culvert pipes to live in, and he showed it. It was in Facebook, and I guess it's an ad. Fat pipe DIY cabins, $7,000, where you can convert these to a cabin. You get the 13-foot length, 10-inch thick wall reinforced. He says, why not he? It's the ad go, why go fat pipe? Thermal mass plus constant temp. So basically, you could even attach 2 pipes. You could have a cabin in front. You could have root cellar, all this shit. Connect 3 to 6 pipes. Have a 2-house type deal. Wonderful. Fucking people are going to be living in culverts, Joey. The people are going to go out there and find one that's under the ground. Nobody's taking advantage of that. I'm going to squat there, baby. That's mine. That's my culvert. Fuck you. Like, this is what we're at. Yeah. This is the point where people are looking at fucking culverts as a way to live. It's funny, but it's not funny, if you know what I mean. And that's the situation where
it's not funny at all. I mean, look at the proposal from Carney on the housing thing. It's impossible. It can't be done. That they're going to build 500,000 houses, become a developer, and put these things up everywhere. I thought it was interesting that Carney was saying that when he made the proposal today, that the houses are going to be, cheap to build, sustainably built, and fast to put up. We're going to remove all these barriers. You know what he didn't mention is whether or not the homes are going to be of any quality. Modular, probably small. We had more births on here, Dan Hess, some time ago, and he noted that the problem that Canada has isn't actually housing, it's houses with backyards to fix your population problem, right? You need that. And are we going to build 500,000 houses while also allowing 500,000 new immigrants every year? I don't know. You could say that maybe we are, maybe we aren't. Obviously, Carney brought on Wiseman as his campaign chair, Century Initiative founder. Raised, by the way, last week, sort of quietly, the number of dependents that any new immigrant could bring in. So if you're, a permanent resident, you can bring in, I think that it's up to 9 people now. Is that the number? I forget. But, if you have dependents, grandparents, parents, whatever, you can bring them over as well. At a clip that was higher. The Liberal government just actually undid some of that. They lowered that limit several months ago, and now it's back to where it was. So you got to ask yourself, is 500,000 enough? It is if you want to live in the pod and eat the bugs. But if you want a decent life with kids, a backyard, a dog, I don't know, going to see a movie on Friday night, like these things are escaping quickly. Society's reaching the point now where I barely leave my neighborhood now because there's just no point. Like what is waiting for me in Hamilton at large that is going to be more pleasant than what's in my neighborhood? Nothing. I go to the gym at a certain time. I do leisurely activities at certain times, at certain places. It takes a lot to convince me to go somewhere else to do any of these things at any other time because it's not only unpleasant, but it's become dangerous in some parts of town. That weren't dangerous years ago. Places like Hess Village, probably has multiple stabbings and murders every year. I used to party there all the time when I was 19 and 20. It's where I cut my teeth as a young man. What is the plan for young men now? I don't know. I'm a little out in the weeds here, but reel me back in, Len. What do you think of the housing proposal?
It's difficult for anybody to get a house. And say, for example, 416, how expensive it is to find a home for, say, 2 people working and me. Like it's so much so that they had to raise the salaries of the counselors 25%. They're probably feeling the pinch.
Unreal. We didn't even touch that story. I can't believe we didn't do that one.
Oh, we could touch it.
Yeah.
Like
they don't get yearly
voted
raises,
on it, by the way.
but still 25 is a lot. That's an unpalatable number.
Who gave them that? They voted for themselves. Could you imagine, like, you have the ability? It's like your boss got.
Did you see what the vote was?
Yeah.
15-8. It wasn't even unanimous. So some of them are starting to have some self-awareness, probably getting looks in the street from people.
So Olivia Chow, she abstained from voting too. And I am old enough to remember, and it was not too long ago, like now it's $170,000. That's the base salary for a city councilor in Toronto. I remember when it was 5 figures. Like it was a job, right? Yeah. Like it was decent, well-paying job, but it was a job. Now, like 100. Well,
you saw the rationale, I'm sure, from Chow and the city councilors. We need to continue to raise wages to attract the best and brightest people for these jobs. Like, are you attracting the best and brightest right now? Chow certainly is not the best or the brightest. I don't know about the rest of the councilors, but
it's a systemic problem because Mississauga, adjacent to Toronto, their councilors, they're earning $173,000.
Yeah, they're more.
Year.
Yeah, they're more. Yeah,
right. Like
Brampton as well, I think, is another one that's more than Toronto.
I could see that, and I have the figures from Markham, 161,000. So they're going on par with their neighboring cities. But is this the way it should be? Should they all be that high? That's a question you should be asking yourself, especially for people that are dealing with higher property taxes. When your property tax last year in Toronto, I forget the number, it went up. It went like 6, 7, 8, 9%, whatever the fuck it was. And then you hear that the official number from the StatsCan inflation was 3% last year. Doesn't quite equate to that, and you're paying way more in property tax, but you're saying that it doesn't make sense. And then you got a 25% raise on top of that. I don't think I got a 25% raise, even if you add up the last 25 fucking years that I worked at. Like, so it doesn't make sense. You get this official number, and then when it comes time when people could vote on their own salary, it goes up way higher than that.
Yeah.
This is what we have to deal with. So, like, people out there in Toronto, they're wondering, like, why is your property tax going up again next year significantly? Portion of this has to do with salary,
for sure.
And one thing, I don't think it's mentioned here, but it's going to be a trickle down effect. If they're raising the salaries of just the counselors, I would imagine the staff too are going to have to go up as well. So that's another burden. So I just tack it on, just fucking more and more shit, and you got all this crumbling infrastructure. They're paying money to fucking rename Young Dundas Square. Like, what's the priorities? Where what are they trying to achieve? Like, what's the goals?
Yeah.
It seems like it's padding their pocketbook and
It's like
trying to just...
Palestine protests every fucking corner. Can't drive, can't bike, can't go out. Drug addicts, killers, people pissing on themselves, pissing on you, shooting up needles, smoking pot. Like, it's not a livable place. And Torontonians are like maybe the most Munchausen bunch I've ever seen in my life. Just like, you're just mad you're not from Toronto. Believe me, I am not mad I'm not from Toronto.
Well, if you have to call up an ambulance, you know, there's somebody that needs urgent care and they gotta get to see a doctor ASAP, and it's fucking blocked because of some protest. And you know, there's not many different routes when you have one of the major arteries blocked. Like, what the fuck? And you're talking about people's lives are at risk.
Yeah,
right? Like,
exactly. Yeah.
Fuck. Like, just if you're gonna do something like that, like, go somewhere on the side and just do it where, you know, it's not going to impact people to a degree. But just generally, people just don't give a shit.
Agreed.
And this shit happens. And again, it just goes back. Like, that's why it's GTFO time. Like, it's like, what's the fucking point? You know,
I'm not saying it's like only Palestinian protesters. I think Mark...
It's everything.
Yeah, Mark said it best. Like, you're a loser if you're holding a flag in the street, period, end of story. It doesn't matter what the flag is. Maybe except Canadian. But if it's any other flag, you know, you're as much of a loser as anyone else.
It's not... Well, I don't want to say. You know what? It's 1:35. I think that's enough.
Let's get out of here. Let's get out of here. I'm looking forward to our election night special. Come back Wednesday. Me and Dave Bradley talking about I don't know what. I'll probably have a little bit of whiskey for that one, since Dave has been running these shows where he's like having a cigar and a whiskey in his house. I guess he just... I mean, I don't smoke. I don't smoke, but if would I smoke in my house?
Could you start?
Maybe. I won't tell Kenzie. She'll have to find out during the show. You'll see that door fly open during the show.
When you go golfing, you don't spark one up then, right?
Oh, I always got a stogie on the golf course. Yeah.
See, I'm the only one that doesn't do that. Like, really? I have not just vibrate my water.
The problem is I never smoke, and also like I don't really drink that much either. I have a couple of beers on weekends. So when I go golfing, my buddies are always like, they have the fattest cigars. There's whiskey flowing. And like by the 9th hole, I'm like lightheaded and can't hit the ball straight to save my life, right? So I don't really.
Join us, Joey.
When I say I'm not good at golf, I actually don't know. I could be good. I'm not.
You might be. You got to join us, because it not only is it a good walk, but it's going to be, you're going to be level-headed through the whole process. There's going to be no peer pressure. You could bring whatever the fuck you want. I don't give a fuck. But if you know, for all of us, we just drink our waters, and that's basically it. Or we bring our sandwiches. It's a cheap $20 to $25 typically with the walking. It's not too bad. It's like what, $5, a little bit more than $5 an hour.
I love a good sandwich too. Who doesn't like a good sandwich? I mean, we're both paisans. We both love a good sandwich.
Yeah, and that's it. And just by the end, you know, you walked about 7K or something, what the fuck it is. You're kind of exhausted because you went up and down that shit oak hill many fucking times. It's fun. And then you know, get a little bit of tan. It's not too bad. And you can walk home if you want. Actually,
out of here.
I'm
leaving. This party's over. I'll see you guys on Wednesday.
We'll see you on Friday, Joey. We'll play some golf one of these Fridays soon.
Yeah, sure.
Anyways, take care.